Welcome to the Abundant Self Podcast, a podcast where we talk about everything there is to learn and to know about what it truly means to have life and life in abundance. My name is Sharon Shabai, and thank you so much for tuning in. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good whatever time it is that you're tuning in to today's episode. I hope you are well and staying safe wherever it is that you are. If this is your very first time here, my good name is Sharon Shabai, and welcome to the Abundant Self Podcast. It is the 1st of February 2023 as I'm releasing this episode, so happy new month. I mean, it was just the other day when we were wishing each other a happy new year, and I just cannot believe that January is over. Usually January is somehow the longest month of the year for everyone. But for some reason, this particular January was short for me. I don't know why. And maybe that's because my year started out a bit late at the second week of January. But anyway, I hope your January was okay. I hope your new year began well. And I hope that, you're just getting your feet planted on the ground and that you're getting the momentum that you need to even take on the rest of the year. So yes, happy new month. It is a month of love. So I know a lot of conversations this month will be surrounding love. But for us today, we are going to be talking about life systems. And that is actually a way of loving life. If you love your life, you will create systems for it. But before that, allow me to recap on our previous episode. That is episode 11, which was our very first episode of the year. And first of all, just allow me to say thank you for the good buzz, the good feedback that I've been getting on that particular episode. I mean, every single day I go and check, what people are saying, even the people who have reached out to me to talk about, what it means to shoot their shot at life. And it's just been interesting getting to interact with what people believe it is for them to shoot their shot at life, whether it's putting themselves out there like myself, just listening to the kind of things that people have set for themselves this year. And I want to believe that that is also a form of shooting your shot, shooting your shot at life. So thank you so much for the good feedback. In the previous episode, as I said, we were talking about shooting your shot at life. And for me, what that means for me is, how do I put myself out there a little bit more in 2023 moving forward? And the reason that I decided to talk about this is because in the previous times and past, most of the time I have led my life from a place of fear, from a place of, being afraid of what it would mean for me to really just let my light shine for all the world to see. That is something that I have really been, a bit indecisive, a bit scared, a bit ish, so to speak, about. So just learning and being in that space where I am not afraid of being myself. I am not afraid of going after opportunities. I am not afraid of letting my light shine, whatever that means. If it's putting myself out there in terms of my work, if it's putting myself out there in terms of my talent, if it's not being afraid to stand up for myself, to stand up for what I believe in, such like things. So that is what informed that episode. That is what we were talking about. And I mean, it has been beautiful to just listen to people even talk about the things that they want to do in 2023, the things they do not want to keep doing in 2023. And I remember in the previous episode, something that we were also talking about was the relationship between resolutions and systems, and how, when the new year begins, most of the time we are very quick to run and make resolutions saying that, this year I want to do this year I want to do A, B, C, and D, but we have not put systems in place that are meant to support those goals, that are meant to support that particular purpose. I mean, a purpose cannot just be achieved. You just can say that I want to maybe develop or progress my career in 2023 and just sit down and do nothing about it? I mean, what are the steps that will lead you there? What is a process? What is a system that will allow you to progress, that will allow you to develop your career, such like things. So I remember when I was talking about that, I was talking about, instead of focusing so much on making resolutions, I mean, resolutions are actually important. It is important to make those resolutions, and not just at the beginning of the year, but any other time of your life. But instead of focusing so much on making those resolutions, why not also focus the same energy on creating systems that will support those goals, those ambitions, those desires, those purposes that we have for our lives? And I remember a verse that I used for that episode was when I was talking about this verse in the Bible that says that it is, putting new wine in old wineskins doesn't work, because when you put new wine in old wineskins, the wineskins are going to burst and everything is going to be ruined. And I remember using that as an example, or rather as a foundation, to build upon the idea that if you want to make new changes in your life, if you want to just have a positive impact, or whatever it is you might want to call it, it is important for you to also go back and change the old mindsets, the old systems that have been preventing you from, changing the way you live your life, changing the way you see life, even your mindset altogether. And so that was actually the foundation of the episode. So if you haven't listened to it yet, be sure to either press pause, or you can just listen to this episode, and then after you're done, you can go and check out episode 11, where we were talking about why you need to shoot your shot at life in 2023. So in today's episode, we are going to be talking about creating life systems, which is pretty much just a build-up of what we were talking about in episode 11, because I felt that this is something that needs to be talked about separately and in a different space, in a different context, and not just combining it with something else. Because I have been learning about systems for this last few months, and it's like every time I read about systems, or every time someone talks to me about systems, it's like I learn something new. It's like I pick up something new, and it has really caused me to ask myself, do I have systems in my life? Do I have systems, whether it's intentionally, whether it's those that I have put in place, knowingly, or those that have just been there unknowingly? I mean, even not having a system in itself. What has led me there? What is it what steps, what process, whatever it is that you might want to call it, what has led me to not have a system? Is it because of a previous experience? Is it because of just not knowing what a system is, not knowing why I need to have a system? So this is something that I have been learning about. And if there's something that I have aimed to do in this podcast, is if there's something that I am learning, is how can I also bring that idea to you so that you can also think about it as well? Because the aim of this podcast is to just encourage us to live the absolute best version of ourselves, and most importantly, to embrace a life of abundance. And I cannot say at the moment, I cannot say confidently that, I am living the best version of myself, or that I have attained that level of abundance, whether it's in terms of my thinking, in terms of the way that I do life. And so what it means for me is, how do I build a community that is also just trying to think about these things of life? What does it mean to live a life of abundance? In this scenario, or for this episode, what does it mean for us to create life systems? So like I said, it is something that I'm still learning. I have started creating systems in my life. I know that there are systems that are already there present in my life, but just trying to either improve them, trying to even get rid of those that haven't been working out for me, and placing new systems in place is something that I have been focusing on. And I know something that will just go ahead to support my life's overall purpose, whatever that is. And yeah, so let's go right into the episode. So I know what we're thinking about right now is, what are systems? And how I would define systems is just a part, or just a combination, a combination of parts, a combination of interconnected parts, actually, that are working together, that are functioning together in order to achieve a certain purpose. So a system, in my own definition, is a combination of interconnected parts, interconnected elements that are working together. A good example that I can use is the digestive system. I mean, the digestive system in our bodies is made up of different parts, different organs that are all working together to achieve a certain purpose, which is, digesting the things that we eat, ensuring that, all the nutrients are distributed effectively in our bodies, or that we have all the nutrients, the things that we need. My sister is a nutritionist, so I'm just thinking how she'd be in a better position to explain this. But yes, you get the point. Think about the government system. Think about the education system. They are all made up of different parts, all working together to achieve a certain purpose. So yeah, when you think about a system, you're thinking about anything that has, a couple of parts that are all working together to get to a certain place, to achieve a certain goal, to achieve a certain purpose. And when we have that foundation, when we have that, as a foundation and when we have that foundation, it becomes easy for us to also see life as a system, because our lives are made up of different parts. They are made up of different elements, whatever it is that you may want to call it, that are all working together for you to achieve your life's purpose. And the thing about a system is that it needs to have a purpose. A system needs to have a purpose. A system cannot exist without a purpose, because why then is it there? I mean, why do we need a digestive system if it's not helping us achieve anything in our bodies? Why do we need a government system if it's not enabling us to do A, B, C, and D? Why do we need an education system? Why do we need a financial system? Why do we need a support system if it is not helping us achieve a certain purpose? So something that is very important and something that you need to understand when it comes to systems is that systems do not exist without purpose. Think about it. Whatever system it is that is in place, it has a certain purpose. Whether it is a positive purpose or a negative purpose, a system needs to have a purpose, because why then is it there? And that is why most of the time when we think about our governments, most of the time, even when you look at life, you're always thinking, okay, then why do we have this thing? If it is not serving its purpose, then let's get rid of it. Okay. So a system needs to have a purpose. And I remember I've actually been reading this book that I got from a colleague, which is called The Art of Thinking in Systems. And a colleague shared this book with me after he listened to the previous episode on, shooting your shot at life. And just understanding this itself was a huge aha moment for me, because that made me realize even why certain things are not working in our governments, in our lives, because if we do not put the right systems in place, or if we have faulty systems in place, then we are able to account for the negative implications that they have. If things are not working out, if you are not achieving your ambitions, if you're not achieving your goals, like I said in the previous episode, it's just a matter of going back and looking at the systems that you have put in place, or the lack thereof. Because as I said, if you want to achieve a certain purpose, then you need to put systems in place. So if you're not achieving that purpose, it means either the system that you have is faulty, or there is no system at all. So yes, like I said, when you talk about a system, it's just a combination of interconnected parts, interconnected elements that enable you to achieve a certain purpose. And in this episode, we are going to be looking at systems in terms of our lives. And something that I have always talked about in this podcast is about how each and every one of us has been created for purpose. Yeah, because like I said, why would God put us on this earth if he did not want us to achieve a certain thing, a certain agenda? And I know I even preempted this in the previous episode where I was talking about how each and every one of us has a personal purpose. Like the purpose that you have may not necessarily be the same as the purpose that someone else has, but they're all connected. They're all leading us to either achieving that greater vision that God has for all our lives, or, that greater kingdom agenda, if you want to call it. So in our own lives, in this episode, we are going to be talking about how do we create systems, and even why are they important? Why is it important for us to have life systems? Why is it important for us to create life systems? And even just understanding, okay, then what is the purpose of this system? And how do I achieve it? How do I get to that place? So before we get to how do you create a life system, like I said, I've been reading this book on the system, the art of thinking. Okay. So before we even get to how do you create a system, or how do you create a life system, whatever it is. Okay. Take 3. So even before we move on to how do you create, or how does one create a life system, like I said, I have been reading this book called The Art of Thinking in Systems that was shared to me by a colleague. And I remember something that really struck me is when it said that watching a system for a bit to see how it behaves is often the best way to figure out its purpose. So watching a system for a bit to see how it behaves is often the best way to figure out its purpose, or in this case, like I said, the lack thereof. And I remember thinking about just the example that I've used. If we sit down today and we look at our government systems, if we just sit back and watch how our government system operates, or let me just use another example, the education system, for example. Here in Kenya, we have had quite a number of education systems. I mean, from different generations have experienced different systems in education. For myself, I did the 844 system, where you go to primary school for 8 years, high school 4 years, and then university 4 years. And then now we have a new education system, the CBC system, that has been introduced. And I mean, there's a lot of, a bit of friction, a bit of quabble as to whether or not it is effective, whether or not it will work or achieve its purpose in the long run. So I remember just thinking about how if we sit down today and we look at our education system, because I know for me, myself, my generation, we complained. We were not really satisfied about the 844 system, saying how it wasn't working for us, how it was, the purpose of the system was not really aligned to what, an education system should achieve, whether it's educating its children, whether it's ensuring that we have citizens who are being released into the society, who know exactly what it is that they want to do with their lives in terms of their careers, in terms of their education, even the flow of information in that particular education system. And I remember just thinking about how if I was to sit down right now, if I was just to sit down and look, just now that I have finished my education in terms of 844. And if I am to sit down and look at the CVC system, it is easy for me to see and spot. Of course, it's still new, but taking that step back to look and watch a system, it is very easy for you to identify. And it's usually the best way to identify its purpose. Like looking at a system, what is the purpose of this system? Is this system meant to ensure that our children are exposed to quality education, that they become, quality individuals, if there's such a term, just to become individuals who are purpose-driven, who have a positive impact in terms of their careers, in terms of whatever industry they get into, whatever it is that they want to do with their lives. Is this system going to support that purpose? Or is this system, or does the system have that purpose? Or does it have a different purpose altogether? Is it to frustrate parents? Is it to frustrate teachers? Is it to frustrate everyone? I mean, looking at the system, and I'm just using that as an example, when you take a step back and you look at a system, it is usually the best way, and it's something that I agree with, it is usually the best way to really understand or identify its purpose. And the thing about this is that it doesn't matter what was communicated. You see, sometimes it's easy for us to say that the purpose of this system is to do this, this, and that. But when you take a step back and actually look at that system for yourself and just watch how it works, then you will be able to identify the real underlying purpose of that system. So it's not just enough to communicate the purpose of a system. We need to be able to see that purpose in the way that this system works, in the way that this system operates. The same goes for your life. It's easy for us to say that, my purpose in life is to do A, B, C, and D. But if someone were to sit down and look at your life, look at how you lead your life, would they be able to see that purpose? Just think about it. If someone today were to say, for me, I know my purpose in life is to, for example, ensure that people discover the true meaning of living life in abundance. Because for me, something that has really been strong in my heart is the fact that none of us was created to eat, to sleep, to pay bills and die. We have all been put on this planet, on this beautiful earth, to live a life of abundance. We have been put on this planet to achieve something greater, something absolutely bigger than we can possibly imagine. So if I myself have spoken that, I have made that known to the public or to whoever it is, and if now people were to sit down, look at how I lead my life, look at how I operate, look at how I function, would they be able to pick that up? Think about it. It is so introspective and it is so eye-opening, and it causes you to be vulnerable, because it is not enough for us to say that this is what we are meant to do. It's not enough for us to just admit that this is my life's purpose. If someone were to sit down and look at the way you lead your life, would they say the same thing? Would they concur with you and say, okay, based on how Chibaiba is living her life, based on, the habits that she has, based on her mindsets, based on the things that, she believes in, her belief system, again, the term system, can we say that is her purpose? Or can we say that, yes, this is actually her purpose? So that is something that to think about. When you want to know if something has a purpose, or when you want to know the purpose of something, just look at the way it operates. It's just like a car, actually. When you look at a car, look at how it operates. It's easy for you to understand its purpose, which is to get you from point A to B because of the way it operates, because of the parts that it has. A car in itself is a system. It's an automobile system. I don't know. The experts will correct me if I'm wrong. But when you look at a car and all the parts that it has and how it functions together to get you from that point A to point B, it is a system. So if they were to say that the purpose of a car is to get you from point A to B, but then it's not moving, it's not doing that, that means that it doesn't have a purpose, or its purpose is something absolutely different. So let's now move forward to, how do you create life systems? How do you create systems for your life? How do you create a system? Something that I have been learning is that life is a system, yeah? But it is made up of so many other systems in between. When you think about your life, there's your belief system, what forms how you think? What forms the things that you believe in? There is, the family system. Think about the support system, even your own body and the systems that run it. When you think about life, it is made up of so many other systems that support your life. So there's that supporting of how you live your life. There's that particular system. So essentially, when we talk about creating systems, there's creating a system for your life, but then there's also creating a system for the tiny systems in your life. I don't know. Does that make sense? So how do you create a system? How do you create life systems? Something that I have been learning is that life is a system, but it is also made up of many other systems. Life is a system, but it is also made up of so many other systems. It could be your belief system, could be a support system, financial system. Whatever it is you might want to call it. life being a system is supported by so many other systems that support the way you live your life. It could be for the better, it could be for the worse, but life is a system that is made up of so many other systems. So when you think about that, it's about how do I create systems that, support this overall system, which is life, which is meant to achieve a certain purpose. I hope that makes sense, right? That there are these tiny systems that support this huge system, and then this huge system is meant to, achieve a certain purpose. So all these systems, they have a purpose to support the main system. And then, that particular system is meant to achieve it. So it's just a bit of interconnected parts, generally speaking. So how do we create life systems? And I remember just before you even think about life as a whole, because like we said, it's made up of that is so many systems. It's just looking at that one system. You can just start by looking at that one system in your life, or that one area in your life that you feel, I think there's work that needs to be done here. And that is how I have been looking at it for me this past few months, is what area of my life needs to be systemized? Is it my family? Is it my work? Is it my career, my craft as a creator? Is it my friendships, my support system? What area in my life needs to be systemized? And that is the first step that you need to take. You need to look at an area of your life that needs a system, because like we said, every system needs to have a purpose. And if you have a purpose that is not being achieved, it means you need to go back and look at, okay, is there a system? Is it faulty? What do I need to do to ensure that this purpose is achieved? And something that I have been choosing to focus on, or rather the area of my life that I have been, just thinking about how I can create a system for it, is my work and my life, my work, the relationship between my work and my life, sort of just talking about work-life balance and how, do I have a system for my work? Do I have a system do I have a system that will help me to attain, work-life balance? I know we've talked about this before, where we've said, maybe attaining that balance is not really ideal, or it's not really attainable. But I have really been thinking about how am I able to ensure that I am working productively, that I am attaining my goals, my deliverables, whether it's at work, even when it comes to my craft as a creator, with my podcast, with my blog. Do I have a system in place that ensures that these two things, my work and my life, are working together in, a symbiotic manner, or are working together without clashing, without bleeding into each other? That is something that I've really been thinking about, because it's something that has, for the longest time, it has just been, how do I call it in Kiswahili, or in Sheng, we call it kubahatisha, where it's just more of a trial and error kind of thing, where you're just doing it to see if it's working. If it's not working, you try something else. There hasn't really been a system that has guided how I approach work, how I approach life, how I attain that balance, whether or not it's achievable or not. It's something that I'm looking forward to. So the first step that you need to take when it comes to creating a life system, or a system generally for anything, is just identifying where exactly do you need this system? And then after you have, identified what area of your life needs a system, now you go ahead and think about, why do you need that system? And the why in this scenario is the purpose. Why is the purpose? Let's take up, for example, your financial life. If your financial life needs a system, or if the purpose of your financial life is maybe to have a healthy financial life, if it's maybe to achieve a certain financial goal, or to get you to a certain purpose, do you have systems for that? And then now thinking about, why do I need to do this? I think usually just like everything in life, you need to be able to understand the why. Why am I doing this? Why am I saving 20% of my salary every month? Why do I need to, carve out time to rest? Why do I need to do A, B, C, and D? That is the purpose. And that is what will even determine how you're going to build this system. For a car, for example, the person who invented the car, I'm sure, was thinking about how we need to be able to move from point A to B faster, more efficiently, whatever it is, and even in a safe kind of process. And so with that purpose in mind, then he decided to design the car. The same way with life. The same way with how God created us. When God created us, he said, so the purpose that I want for Chabai in this life is to do A, B, C, and D. And for that to happen, it now means, okay, now let's create her. And me in myself, I am a system. I am made up of systems. And so how do the systems that I have in life help me or enable me to achieve that purpose? So yes, like I said, number one, what area of your life needs to be systemized? And then I'll think about, why do you need to systemize it? What is the purpose? And, most of the time, the why, like I said, is usually a purpose. And as I insist again, a system cannot exist without a purpose. So once you have identified this purpose, just go ahead further and really just understand what this purpose is, because it is not enough for you to say that this is the purpose of your life. It is not enough for you to say that this is the purpose of your life. It is not enough for you to say that this is, why you want to do something. You need to be able to understand that why. It's not enough for you to say that, I need to wake up in the morning to go to work because of this, and that. You just don't leave that there. You need to be able to understand, why do I need to do this? Why is it important for me to get up in the morning? And it's just, when you think about problem solving, when you're thinking about your problem and just understanding how to solve it, usually you're taught you really need to just break down that problem into a problem statement, whatever it is you might want to call it, and really understand that problem, so that if you're now to take action to solve that problem, if you're now to take action to ensure that there's change, you really know what to focus on. So even after you know your purpose, just go a step further and think about, okay, what is this purpose? Do I understand it? For me, it's all about living a life of abundance. It's not enough for me to say that I want to live abundantly. Yes, that is the purpose of my life, and to also ensure that people understand that. But do I understand that? Do I understand that? When you understand the purpose of something, it becomes easy for you to achieve it. It's not enough to know that the purpose for a car is to get me from point A to B. If I don't understand that, if I do not know how to drive this car, if I do not know how to get this car from point A to point B, then that means I'll just misuse the car. I'll misuse its purpose. I'll misuse or just abuse the reason for which it was created. The same thing with life. If you know your purpose, you need to understand it as well, because that is the only way that you will actually see it being manifested in your life. If your purpose, even in your workplace, for example, if you have been set for certain deliverables and you're being told that the purpose to which you're here is to attain A, B, C, and D, you need to be able to understand why. Why do I need to attain A, B, C, and D? And do I know how to attain A, B, C, and D? So it's not enough to know your purpose. You need to be able to understand and define that purpose properly. And that is the only way that now will help you to take a step forward, will help you to now build proper systems. So identify that area in your life that needs to be systemized. Identify the why. What is the purpose? Why do you need to systemize it? And then I'll go a step further and seek to understand that purpose even more. Once you have understood that purpose, once you have understood, okay, this is what needs to be done, and this is the main reason, this is the primary reason why this needs to be done, then you can think about the how. So how will I do it? Just going to the example of a car, hopefully it makes sense, is that if I understand that the purpose of this car is to get me from point A to point B, because I need to save time, because I need to get where I need to go faster, because I need to achieve certain goals, whether it's transportation, if I have a business, whatever it is. Once I have that, it's now understanding, okay, then how? How do I achieve this purpose? If I do not know how to drive, it would mean going for driving lessons. It would mean doing this, and that. It would mean even buying a car in the first place. That could be another step. I mean, once you understand the why, once you understand that this is why this needs to happen, then you can now start thinking about, okay, then how do I achieve this? How do I achieve this? If, for example, it's your relationships that needs to be systemized, think about why do you need to systemize your relationship? Then if you understand why you need to systemize it, then go ahead and ask yourself why again. Actually, most times you need to ask yourself why like 5 times. So I need to systemize my relationship. Why? Because I need to make better friends. Why? Because I need to have a healthy circle of friendships. Why? Like you need to keep asking yourself that why up until you get to that point where you truly understand that purpose, where you truly understand why you need to do that particular thing. So then if it means that you have understood that, now go back and think about, okay, so how will I do this? Maybe it's now being more mindful about the kind of friends that I have, or scheduling dates with my friends, saying that, I'm going to be calling my friends every once a week or every once a month, or meeting up with my friends, just putting those steps down, putting that process down, and for you to actually see, it's like mapping out how that whole process will look like. That is what creating a system looks like. You identify what needs to be systemized. You identify the why. You keep asking yourself that why until you really understand and have a clear definition of your purpose or why it needs to be done. Then get to the how. How will you achieve it? How will you get there? How will you achieve that greater purpose? And then after you have known how you will achieve it, is now thinking about what do you need? What do you need? What do you need to take those steps? So for me, if I to use my example to achieve work-life balance, do I have a system in place for that? Why do I need to achieve work balance? I know, for example, a reason could be is because, being able to balance between work and my work as a creator, because I'm not a full-time creator at the moment. But being able to balance those two, is something that is very important to me, because what I do in my work is what supports, my life as a creator, even my personal life. All these things they're all interconnected. They're all working together to help me become the person that I am. And for me to get to that point, I need to know, how do I start doing this? Does this mean that every day I know that this particular time is set for this, and this particular time is set for maybe my personal life, my life as a creator? And now understanding, okay, then what do I need to achieve this? What do I need to achieve this? Do I need an accountability partner? Do I need to have check-ins with myself? Do I need to have check-ins where I sit down and say, okay, this week, this is what I achieved. What did I not achieve? What went well? What could I have done better in terms of my work-life balance? Such things. So think about what needs to be systemized. Think about why you need to systemize it. Ask yourself why, until you truly understand that particular purpose. Then you can go ahead and think about how you're going to get there. And then number 5, you can think about, what do you need? What do you need to be able to do all these things? Do you need to move out? Do you need to get a new job? Do you need an accountability partner? What do you need? Now you know how you are going to get there. Think about what do you need. And then finally, if now that you understand what you need, now you can start practicing all that. Now you can start putting that into action. Put that into action. And you see, the thing about a system is that, like we said, for it to achieve its purpose, it has to be operating. For a car, for it to achieve its purpose, which means which is, to get you from point A to B, it needs to actually be moving. It needs to actually be operating. The engine needs to be working, the oil system, the steering wheel, the wheels, the whole car needs to be able to be operating in order for you to attain its purpose. If you are to implement a system, or for a system to be a system, it needs to be operating. Because a system, like we said, cannot operate without purpose. So a system, the car needs to be moving for you to know, okay, this car is moving, but the steering wheel, I don't think is great. I mean, my honk is not working. I need to go change it. My tires are not good. I need to go change my tires. I need to go do wheel alignment, whatever it is. My engine needs maintenance. My car needs maintenance. That's when a system is, operating, when a system is literally functioning, that is when you get to know, okay, yes, I have put the systems in place, but in this system, there's something that needs to be reworked. There's something that needs to be gotten rid of in order for it to get me to that purpose. So allow me to repeat them again, those steps. Number 1, identify what area needs to be systemized. Number 2, identify the why. What is the purpose? Number 3, seek to understand the purpose. Ask yourself why as many times as possible until you get to the root cause, until you're able to understand the real purpose of this system. Then after you've understood the purpose, number 4, go ahead and think about how. So how am I going to get there? How am I going to achieve this purpose? After you have known, or rather traced the how, now you can go and think about, what do you need? What tools do you need? I mean, even if it's building a house, if that is a system, if we use that as an example of a system, I mean, okay, let's see, interior designers or architects, whoever they are, usually they draw it. They know that this is how we are going to build this house. This is, how the sitting room, the dining room, the kitchen, the bathroom are going to look like. But then they also have to go ahead and look at what they're going to need. Do they need tiles? Do they need carpets? Whatever it is. Clearly, I am not versatile. Clearly, I am not that informed about the construction industry, but I hope you get my point. So after you know the how, get to understand what you need to be able to achieve this. And then now you can start putting all these things into action. Now get your system up and running. Once your system is up and running, now go and just intentionally track your progress, just look at your system. Okay. It's just the same way with our bodies, how we have to go to the hospital, or even how we ourselves can be able to see, okay, today I'm not feeling so well, whether it's my stomach, whether it's something is not working. Something in this system is not working, whether it's your circulatory system, your digestive system, whatever system it is, once it is in action, once it is, functioning or in operation, that is when you get to know whether or not it is working or not. And it is during that time that you're able now to see, okay, maybe this needs to be changed. Maybe I can improve on this. Maybe I can get rid of it. I mean, it is an iteration process where you keep repeating it over and over again. Once you see the results, you're able to sit down and say, okay, let's do this a bit differently. Then put that into action, see how it works. I mean, even for a car, I have used this example before. Maybe so many times, maybe it's because I'm recording in a car. But when you think about the person who was even inventing this car, they had to introduce so many things into the system before the car actually was able to attain its purpose. Maybe they tried doing something. Maybe they tried using something that wasn't an engine to run the car in the beginning. Maybe it was not even a steering wheel in the first place that was, being used to steer the car from this point to this point. Just think about it. At that point when this system was being created, so many parts, so many things are being introduced to enable it to attain its purpose, whether it's the side mirrors, whether it's the chair, whether it's the wheels, whether it is the windscreen, whatever it is. So many parts were introduced to this system. And it is during that process that certain things were changed, certain things were removed, certain things were improved, and now it is able to function at its optimum. Now it is able to attain its purpose. And what this means is that when it comes to your life, even when you're creating a system for your life, remember that at the end of the day, it is a work in progress. At certain levels of your life, certain systems will work. And at times, there's a place you'll get and you'll say, okay, I don't think this system is working for me moving forward. Either I need to change it, get rid of it, or improve it. Because when it comes to our purposes in life, or even the purpose of when you're in a certain stage of your life, maybe your purpose is to do A, B, C, and D. For example, when you're a child or when you're in school, the purpose is to, make sure that you get good grades, make sure that you do this and this. So there'll be a need for a system for that particular period. So you need to be able to extend grace to yourself and know that it is okay if a system is not working. It is absolutely okay, knowing that it is up to you to now sit down and say, okay, the system is not working. Now let's change it. It's okay when it's not working and you're willing to take action for it. It is not okay when a system is not working, but you're still sitting there. Because like I said, and I think this is something that we've been building around in this episode, is that the thing about systems is that if the ideal purpose is not met, or if the ideal purpose is not achieved, then the system is bound to fail and it is going to have certain implications. If this car is not operating, if this system, that is this car, is not operating the way it is supposed to function, it is going to fail. And what happens when it fails? Things are going to be serious implications. Whether the car is going to break down, it's going to cause an accident. And those implications have also other serious implications added onto it. So the same way, when you understand that your life is made up of systems, and when you look at your life and say, okay, I think this area of my life doesn't have a system, or this area of my life has a system, but it's not working, it is up to you to sit down and say, okay, why is it not working? Go back again and say, okay, just go back to the steps. Why is it not working? What is the purpose of this system? Do I understand the purpose of this system? Do I really, really understand the purpose of this system? Then how then do I make it work better? How do I make my life work better? Your life is a system, like we've said. If things are not working, go back and look. Is it my mindsets? Is it the people that I'm surrounding myself with? Is it the way that I, look at life, my perception about life, my belief system, my support system? What about this system is not working? What needs to be changed? What needs to be removed? If a system is not working, then it's going to have serious implications. If you are on this earth and you do not understand what your purpose is, it's not enough to know what your purpose is. You need to understand what it is. You need to understand what it is. It's not enough to know something. You need to be able to understand it. You need to be able to really, really understand that purpose. So when that system is not working and when that purpose is not being achieved, when the purpose of a system is not being achieved, then there are going to be serious implications. And that is the same for our lives. Think about the education system. Think about the government system. If the purpose of that system, the ideal purpose is not being achieved, there are going to be serious implications. And that is going to be seen whether it's the quality of life of the citizens of the country, whether it's the kind of students that are being released into the professional industry or the professional space. Even when it comes to your body, if a system in your body, if your circulatory system is not working, if it's not attaining its purpose, then it's going to have serious health implications on yourself. Yeah. So that is how you create, and that is why it is important for you to create life systems, because you need to be able to operate at an optimum level. You create a life system and I know we've also preempted on why it's important, because it makes life easier. It saves you a lot of time. It enables you to live life intentionally, to live a more purpose-driven life. Actually, that is it. Creating a life system will help you to live a more purpose-driven life, because you're able to know that I am not on this earth. I asked you bye-bye. By the way, I was not created for nothing, because that would be a trap. Why would God put me on this earth if I don't have anything to do here? If God has decided that Shebiba is going to be born in this year and she's going to live this certain number of years, it's because there's something that he wants me to achieve in that lifetime. There's a purpose for which God has created me. There's a purpose to which God has created you as an individual. And in order to attain that purpose, you need to create systems. And like I said, life is a system that is made up of so many other systems. So literally, if we do not have systems in place, then how are we going to attain the purposes for which we have been created? If the purpose of this car, like I said, is to move me from point A to B, and if there are no systems that have been put in place to enable this car to move, then why do we need the car? So just think about it. Do you have a life system? Or rather, what area of your life needs to be systemized? Go ahead and think about why. Why do you need to systemize it? Is it because there is no system? Or is it because there is a system, but it is not working? Think about how you will get there. How will you be able to achieve that purpose? What do you need? I mean, all these are the things that I have been thinking and have been learning about. And usually the thing about systems, or just really anything, if you want to really understand something, it's the fact that you need to actually see it in action. You have to see it working. You know, it's not enough to say that you want to lose a certain amount of kgs. You just can't sit there and say that this is what I want to do and then not do it. You need to be able to start either going to the gym, maybe monitoring how you're eating habits, whatever it is, for you to know, okay, maybe this is not working. Let's try something else. So the same way with your life. It's all about seeing all these things in action. Like we said, if someone were to sit down and look at your life right now, look at the way you're leading your life, would they be able to determine your life system? And if your life purpose rather, and if they tell you what your life purpose is from how they have observed, how they have seen you live your life, does it match, or is it the same as the one that you have declared for yourself? If you have declared that the purpose of your life is to do this, but then someone else sits down and looks at you and says, no, based on what I have seen, based on the kind of actions that I have seen you make, the kind of decisions, the way you live your life, your belief systems, your mindsets, then I don't think that is your purpose. You understand? So just go and think about that. And it is something that I am encouraging you and challenging you to do, because it is also something that I am doing myself. At the moment, I am focusing on that particular system of my work, of my life, of even my life as a creator, my life as a daughter, my life as a friend. I have decided to look at those tiny systems and see how I can just either improve on them, create them where they do not exist, and just see how they can all support that main purpose, which is living a life of abundance and ensuring that everyone understands that they too need to live a life of abundance. So yeah, like I said when we were beginning this episode, ultimately, if you love your life, if you love life in itself, and if you understand that life is precious, that life is a gift, that you want to live it abundantly, that you want to, have a purpose-driven life, then you will put systems in place that will help you to live your life's purpose. Whatever it is, just think about it. And maybe this is also a good time and a good moment to just think about, what is your life's purpose? What is this thing that, influences the kind of way that you live? Your belief systems, your mindset. What is this thing that drives you to wake up in the morning every day? Think about it. I mean, you can even start from there. What is your life's purpose? And after you understand it, just go ahead and create systems. And I know sometimes it can be difficult to even understand what your purpose is. So you can find a mentor, you can find someone to talk to, your close friends, just go back, sit down and look at some of the things that, have the patterns that you have seen in your life, and see if there's any connection to what your purpose is. I mean, seek God, seek for his wisdom, seek for his revelation. I mean, God is able to reveal to us the secrets and the promises and everything that he has in store for us if only we ask. Solomon asked for wisdom and it was given to him. Sometimes we can think that we even know our purpose, what our purpose is, but that is not the blueprint that God has given for our lives. So yes, just seek God, seek his wisdom, seek to understand, okay, God, I am alive in this moment, and that means that there has to be a purpose for my life. Why am I here? Why have you created me? think about it, pray about it, meditate about it, speak to your close friends, your mentors, your spiritual leaders, whoever it is, and just get to understand. Because once you understand that purpose, it becomes even easier for you to create systems in place. Because like we have said in this episode, a system cannot exist without a purpose. A system cannot exist without a purpose. So this means that the purpose has to come first. The purpose has to come first. Then the system comes after. So if you want to learn more about systems and more so systems thinking, I would advise you to go and check out the book that I told you I'm reading. That is The Art of Thinking in Systems by Schuster. I hope I have pronounced that name correctly, but I'll leave a link to it on the show notes, so be sure to check it out. You can purchase it, you can read it online. But so far, so good for me. I think reading it has really put certain things into perspectives in terms of system, and just applying it to my life in how, just applying it to the fact that my life is a system made up of a couple of systems. So if you want to learn more about systems and systems thinking, be sure to go check that out. I mean, just go ahead and read all about it, even seek ways, and just go ahead and even speak to your friends about it. Ask them, do you have a system in your life? How does it work? Is it working for you? What are some of the changes, the benefits? What are some of the things that you have seen come out of the system? It can be something, it is something to talk about with your friends. Just get to pick their mind about it. And also go ahead and let me know, do you have a system for your life? Is it working? What are the systems that you have? Even if maybe it's in your organization, if it is even in your personal life, in the way that you do certain things, that people who say, I have a system for this. There's a system that I have put in place that helps me to do A, B, C, and D. So be sure to let me know about that. And speaking of loving life, like I said, this is the month of love. So people are thinking about, what will I do for Valentine's? Blah, blah, blah. And like we said, I know a lot of content is going to be tailored around love. So I decided, okay, let's also do the same. But this time we're going to be talking about self-love. And this is something that has really been coming up in most of my spaces that people are saying. And I think it's because it's the new year and it's something that happens. I need to love myself more. I need to, take care of myself more. And I remember I was even asking someone last week, what does self-love mean to you? And there are people who are really not sure whether that is actually a thing, whether self-love is a thing. So that is what we are going to be talking about in the next episode. That is episode number 13. We are going to be talking about self-love. Is it fact? Is it myth? Is it fiction? Whatever it is you might want to call it. But that is it for today's episode. Thank you for joining. Thank you for tuning in, especially if you have tuned in up until this moment. Thank you. I hope you have learned a thing or two. Be sure to share this episode with your friends and family. And do not forget to let me know what you think about this episode. What have you learned? What has piqued your mind? What questions do you have? And maybe we can even do a part 2 of this episode and try and debunk all these things. Like I said, we are all living or just walking this journey of living a life of abundance. And I don't want to do it alone. I want to do it together with you. So be sure to let me know what you think, and so be sure to let me know what you think so that we can, understand it better and do life better. Yes, so be sure to also follow, rate, and review us from wherever you get your podcasts. We are currently available on all major listening platforms. That is on Google Podcasts, on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, and pretty much every other podcast listening platform. So be sure to follow us, rate us, review us, let us know what you think about the podcast. And of course, be sure to consider subscribing or joining our mailing list, where we are going to be just talking about all things abundance. Just keep the conversation going on abundance, of what it means to live life abundantly and to the fullest. So I have also left a link to that in the show notes. Also, go ahead and check out our social media platforms. We are available on Facebook, on Twitter, and on Instagram at The Abundant Self Podcast. And I also invite you to check out my LinkedIn page at Sharon Chibaibai, where I'm going to be talking about, my life as a creator, what I've been able to learn about life so far, and so much more. Until next time, I hope to see and hear you in the next episode. Bye-bye. There you have it. This has been the Abundant Self Podcast with me, Sharon Chibaibai. If this episode has been helpful to you, feel free to share it with your friends and family. We'd also love to hear from you. If you have any feedback or questions relating to today's episode, then go ahead and leave us a voice message on the hotline number in the show notes. Feel free to also rate and review us from wherever you get your podcasts. If you remember nothing else from today's episode, I hope you remember that you have been called to have life and life in abundance, and that I am rooting for you always.